Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Chassidus in the morning, 15 minutes, change your life. Heichaltzu. So this shiur is available for sponsorship in honor of Liana and Hananya. And I hope everyone had an amazing time at the wedding. I'm sure I did. And that's why my throat is a little bit hoarse. Some coffee. I made a bracha before. Okay, so we've been talking a lot about the Kabbalistic terms and discussing the shiur of essentially all problems, that everything really starts out from good, or in general, besides from toil, which is sort of midjan, which is not good, but it's not a specific level within toil. It's not a chesed of toil, which is good, or gvura, it's the whole thing itself. When it comes down, it skips the Seder Shtalshlus, which is the normal chain-like descent, which is what normal Seder Shtalshlus in sort of simple English is sort of the natural progression of things, the way God made them. Whereas then there's Lamayim Seder Shtalshlus, which is above. And it seems like what we're saying here is that midjan is Lamata Seder Shtalshlus, jumps, it descends, it falls down. It doesn't go through this process, it just falls down. So now we're going to start discussing and even more next chapter. What does it mean in practical terms? So we'll go from page 23. The separation that characterized the realms of Toyu gave rise to the 7 evil. Oh, one second, quick, cute story. That one time, trying to figure out which story. Yeah. So there was a guy. His name was Moshe Leib Erblich. He lived in 1745 to 1807, and unfortunately lost his father at a very young age. And so he had to support the family, as well as in those days. So he had to leave Yecheder. He was probably 8, 9, and he wasn't able to go learn the Torah anymore. He had to go work and try to support the family. So fortunately, and he always longed for the days he could go and go back to learning Torah. And fortunately, a few years later, his mother, she inherited a large sum of money. So he could stop working, go back to learning Torah. And so he did. He went to a yeshiva in Mikulov, which is in Czech Republic today. And he became very good friends with the rabbi, chief rabbi, which was Shmuel Shmalke. He passed away in 1778. So one day, the rabbi's wife, she was going to wash her hands. And you can imagine in those days, they didn't have like running water inside. So they went to, the local pump at the pool, get water. So she went to wash her hands. She took off her rings to go pump water. And as she took off her rings, the town Ganav, he saw what's going on. So as she wasn't paying attention, he swiped her rings. But she quickly realized, and then the commotion started. So the Rav Shmuel Shmalka, he told Reb Moshe, this guy that it was used to be, had to work and now he's able to go back to yeshiva, which he had befriended the Rav. He told him, he goes, run after the Ganav and tell him the ring is his. He told him the ring is his and it's worth 100 korinas and nothing less. So this boy runs to this thief, he catches up with him and he explains to him, he says, the Rav said it's yours to keep, it's yours. Because the Rav didn't want him to have any, issues that he's a Ganav or something, and also he said to him, clearly probably has issues. He needs to make money this way, and also how much it's worth. And this is Ahavas Yisroel to the extreme, but this is sort of Ahavas Chinam we're talking about. And ultimately, the guy was so affected by what happened to him, what this Rav did, that he stopped his ways and he got a proper job, and he lived a proper decent life. So in this idea of the opposite of Toyu. So the separation that characterizes the realm of Toyu, that caused the 7 emotive attributes. As mentioned, separation, the general reason for the shattering of the vessels of Kalim. Like I said before, that the shiur of Kalim, it caused this. So the clip of midjan in this world is an extension and a result of the fundamental separation that characterizes Toyu. So the clip of midjan that we have down here is essentially coming from this shiur of Kalim. And therefore, it's not included among the 7 nations. Because because that 7 nations is something specific that happened, because every nation is compared to one of the spheres, one of the emotions, whether it's kindness, severity, beauty, and things like this. Whereas Midyan was just above all this. It was a fundamental separation. It wasn't a specific issue that you had, like Chesed couldn't get along with Gvura. It was, I just don't like everything. The whole thing is a problem. And he explains, and therefore it's not included among the 7 nations, for it's not an individual quality, but rather represents the general condition of Toyol, which is division. It doesn't show about a specific division, it's division itself. That's Midyan. It is not an effect of the shattering, but rather the root and source of the shattering. Yeah, see, the effect of the shattering is now Chesed and Gvura have problems down here. Whereas Midyan is the source of the shattering. It's baseless hatred, expressing itself through Chesed, through Gvura, but it's not Chesed baseless hatred, it's baseless hatred. And how to express it, so I'll find, and you'll see, he's going to explain it later, that like when a person comes, he doesn't like someone, it's not a specific reason, I don't like him, and then I find reasons. So to here, the shiur Kalim, the source of it is Midyan. Midyan is sinas chinam. It's baseless hatred. We just don't get along. Why? I'll figure out a reason. So it is not that the division results from the shattering of shiur of Toyol, and therefore, instead, in the very source, the sphere of Toyol were characterized by thrust towards self-orientation. In the realm of Toyol itself, that self-orientation was expressed in a desire to cling to God. It's in Toyol, the self-orientation, the sort of the selfish, selfless, self part of it was all about towards God in Toyol. However, after the shattering and the subsequent descent, but when they came down, the self-orientation was expressed in division and led to strife. It comes down here, it becomes negative. As we'll be explained in the subsequent chapters, our divine service involves refining and transforming our 7 emotive qualities, corresponding to the 7 Canaanite nations. Therefore, their land was to be conquered and made part of Eretz Yisrael. That's what we have to conquer, because we have to conquer our emotions. We have to make sure that the emotions are in line, and we're not being wild and out of control. The land of Midyan was not to be conquered, but the general quality of self-orientation that leads to division and strife must be uprooted and eliminated entirely. It cannot be transformed to holiness. By Midyan, being it's coming from a deep-seated place, it's something that cannot be really truly refined, so you just have to stay away from it, you have to get rid of it. Whereas the 7 Canaanite nation, you have to conquer. Whereas Midyan, you don't have to conquer, you just have to destroy, because its negative is purely negative, whereas the negativity of the other nations was something which needs to be refined. Kitzur, page 24. The clip of Midyan is identified with strife and baseless hatred. The 7 Canaanite nations represent the 7 specific middays of the realm of Klippa. Yes, the Midyan is just baseless hatred. And the 7 Canaanite nations are specific middays that need to be refined. So the chapter continues to discuss the spiritual counterpart of Midyan, the quality leading to strife and contention that exists within our hearts. It explains that Midyan reflects on the innate self-orientation that characterizes Klippa. That's what Midyan, the innate self-orientation. This distinguishes the realm of Klippa from the realm of holiness. Holiness is characterized by bittul, which leads to unity. By contrast, Klippa is characterized by self-orientation, which leads to separation and ultimate strife. 1 second. True, they represent the realm of holiness. However, because of the intensity of their light, they were fundamentally unstable. This brought about the spiritual cataclysm known as the shiur Kalim, the breaking of the vessels. After the Kalim and the shiur of Toyol shattered, the remnants underwent a radical descent that led to the clip of Midyan, the quality that brings about a separation, strife, and contention that prevails in our world. So ultimately, it started off good, as we said many times before, it started off good, but it came off really bad. And let's see what is, and we're talking about, essentially, we're trying to lead into this conversation about, and we have to work on ourselves and see what we have to refine versus what we have to get rid of. We'll start Dalet a little bit. So in the previous chapter, page 25, in the previous chapter, the Rashab elaborated on the idea that Midyan is identified with strife and disunity, explaining its source in the realm of Toyol. In the present chapter, he focuses on the manner in which the qualities associated with Midyan are reflected in our own characters. So now what does this all mean within ourselves? So the clip of Midyan then is baseless hatred, hatred. There's no specific reason. It is not aroused because one has been harmed or purged by another person in any way. As explained above, it is motivated by a person's fundamental self-orientation, which prevents him from bonding with another person. Were the hatred to have a specific cause, it would be dependent on the specific attributes and would not be considered a result of the klipa of midyan specifically. Instead, the feelings of hatred stem from the attributes of might, gvura of toyum, which is in the fallen state, due to the b'shadol vessels. He said, if it wasn't, the klipa of midyan is baseless hatred. It's a hate for, there's no reason. I just hate. Someone bothers me. There's people that bother us, and sort of what we're getting into, we have to start learning to look at ourselves and look at how we see other people. And, do we look down at other people? And then what the Rashab is saying, that a lot of times you look at a person, you look down at them, not because they did anything wrong, just because of our self-orientation. We have our own self, our own existence. We take up a space, so someone else can't take up space for us. And we feel they're in their way. And we just start to and they bother us. And then we don't realize it, but we say, no, what do you mean? But it's because they do this, but it's not really because they do anything wrong. It's not that they do something wrong and that's why you hate them. That's why they bother you. It's really essentially they only bother you because there's your self-centeredness that is taking up space, and so then you can't get along. It's like that. Like, what's the difference between a friend and a person you don't like a friend and a person that bothers you? They both have things that they do good, and they're good people, or they're good and they're nice. They also have things they need to work on. We all do. So what makes the difference? What's the difference? Now, by your friend, what do you focus on? You focus on all the good, all the positive qualities, and not the negative qualities. Whereas by the person you don't like, you focus on the negative qualities. That's what he's saying. He's saying essentially, clip a midyan, and you just don't like them. It's a baseless hatred. Whereas, and now he's saying, in contrast, if it was because of something specific, so let's say you had a hatred towards them, that would be gvura of toyum, which is in the fallen state, due to the shadow of visit. Because shiur kalim, so now you have a hatred towards this person. As mentioned in the previous chapter, in their source, the attribute of toyum were holy, without any negative orientation. However, the shattering of the vessels highlighted the self-orientation and allowed for the possibility of klipa to gain a foothold. But through the shiur kalim, now klipa can become involved, and now you can have gevura in a negative sense. The word translated as might refers to the ability to summon up inner power. In that way, it differs from koyach, which is often translated as strength. A sage states, who is a mighty man, one who conquers his natural inclination. The inner might is necessary to summon up the power to say no to one's natural wants and desires. The exercise of this might is associated with the control and judgment. Ideally, exercising one's control and judgment should be focused on his own energies and not on other persons. However, due to the descent caused by the shadow of the vessels, one judges another person, not himself. So that's the klipa. That the purpose of klipa kavura is to judge yourself and to be very strict on yourself, and in a healthy way, of course, but to analyze yourself and make sure that you're being proper the way you should be and the way your potential is. But when you have it down, it comes down to the negative. So you do that, but for someone else, and you're judging someone else. You look at someone else and you say, why are they doing this? Why this? Why this? And it's all judgment. No, due to the descent caused from the shadow of the vessels, one judges another person, not himself. Moreover, when the other person does not measure up on the scale of judgment, the attribute of might could lead to feelings of anger and hatred towards the opponent. And therefore, when you say, and I think, unfortunately, this is the thing in Crown Heights, that that people look at you and they just judge you based on what you look, and why you're wearing this, or why you're doing this, or why, very superficial things. And instead, what we should be doing is being self-reflective on ourselves and analyzing ourselves. Now, I'm not saying are people doing everything correctly, but that's not the point. The point is, why am I? Yeah, it's not just Crown Heights. Yeah, someone said it's not just Crown Heights. Yeah, it's true. I live here, so I see it. But it's the fact that we shouldn't be judging other people as much as we should be judging ourselves first. Because when judging other people, really it's coming from the klipa of shiur kalim. That in its source, it was judgment. We should be judging ourselves, and not in a negative way, of course, but in a positive, real way. Because that person opposes him So he responds negatively, quarreling, contending with him. This is an undesirable quality, but does not stem directly from the klippa midyan. But all this is wrong, but this is not midyan. It's bothered by judging them, by seeing something that bothers you, that you should be judging yourself. Instead, you're focusing on someone else. But that's like klippa midyan. That's a reason. The strife, contention, and hatred stems from klippa midyan. Does not arise from any specific point. It's not that they're doing something, they're dressed in a certain way, not they're saying something they're not nice, or they're acting something in a way you don't like, but rather from the inability of one's person to tolerate another. It's that you can't handle someone else. That's it. They didn't do anything wrong. You don't like it, just they're there and it's taking up my space. Even if he does not know him and has never had any dealings with him, he finds it impossible to unite with him. In the previous instance, the strife arose because of a specific cause. The strife that results from the klippa midyan, by contrast, is what is called baseless hatred. One person hates another for no reason. See, and if you see it in the Hebrew, it's a lot more geschmack. He goes, this is what is called baseless hatred. That you hate him freely. Nothing. There's no, sinas chinam means it's sinna bechinam. You hate him for free. They weren't worthy of being hated. They did anything. And so, when you first learn these days, me, I have these issues. I'm a good person. Like, I don't know these issues. I know what you're talking about. But I guess we'll stop here. But the homework or the idea to think about is to think about this and analyze and say, is it people that I don't like? And what's going on and why don't I like them? And you say, yeah, but I don't like them because they did X, Y, and Z. Say, but is that true? And really like focus on these things and say, hey, is it that I don't like them because of what they did to me? Or is it because no, I don't have a real good reason for it? Am I judgmental? Do I judge people very quickly? Do I judge myself in a negative way? But it's more so other people around. Like, do I not get along with people? And it's not also the opposite of it is not that I just get along with everyone because I'm a nobody. It's not a healthy thing. It's a good thing to get along with people, but we're not talking about you should just be a shmata. But this is to think about like how my relationships with people and people that bother me. Do I have people that bother me? Why do they bother me? Do they bother me because of something specific, or is it because my self-centeredness and my ego that takes so much space, I don't have room for them? And you could say to yourself, hopefully you're like, oh no, it's because of X, Y, Z. But is it? Question that. Is that really why? Yeah, very, very interesting. To be continued tomorrow.